Good evening, everyone. Welcome to an episode of the Hog Talk podcast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to head on over to all of our social medias, hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. It goes a long way to supporting the podcast. We're coming to you live from the Sterling Soap Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows coming to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes, and alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. And tonight we will recap the 52-7 victory over Alabama A&M. And in the second segment, we'll go over the week one in college sports and talk a little Arkansas State. But Adam, it started off very, very, very shaky for this Razorback team. The offense, you really can't say too much bad about the offense. They were clicking. They seemed, there was times where pressure got to them and Taylor Green took some hits that I kind of disagree with what Sam Pittman said about it. We wanted to go out there and play football. In a game like this, taking hits, which we can break down a little later, but the defense was very, very, very worrisome. There should be no reason in the first drive or any drive where Alabama A&M just marches down the field and scores the way they did. And I'll say this, not saying that it wouldn't have been a 52-21 game. I'll say that Alabama A&M shot themselves in the foot on a bunch of stupid penalties, not, lining up another, false starts. So there was a lot of penalties there. Not again, let me say very clearly, not saying it would have changed the outcome in the game whatsoever, but you could see the depth. Penalties really had a huge impact on this game early on.
Oh, it did. And I know a lot of us were chirping early on in the first quarter. I know I was, especially with the defense. Didn't know what we were getting into. Looked slow, looked sloppy, looked late. But it was one of those things, they got it in gear. The bad part is me and friends, were texting throughout the game. And we were talking about how the defense had turned things around, which they absolutely needed to do. Me thinking on, playing devil's advocate a little bit, if this were an SEC game, that SEC team, wouldn't have laid down after that. They would have kept scoring. And then in turn, how does that deflate your offense when your defense isn't getting any stops? It would have been a completely different game, but that's for another time. Defense righted the ship. And it was one of those things that after really the first quarter, there wasn't a whole lot to complain about.
Yeah.
Sure, we can find things to complain about, nitpicking, if you will. But it was one of those, they figured things out. Offense looked good. You just wonder, is that going to continue against Arkansas State? And then, it's one of those, or are we looking at like last year's, UAPB game? Things kind of settled down a little bit after week one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you looked at number 13, I believe. Let me pull his, I had him just up. Where's he at? The tight end, Trevante Abner. He was 6'2", 249, and it looked like trying to close in on him to bring him down. Again, with the penalties, he had a couple of big plays that got called back because of penalties. That's what was really alarming to me at first. This was a dude, again, 6'2", 250, running down. He was running like he was in slow motion, and he didn't have Matt Jones speed. And there was a lot of things that were like, okay, what is going on? And assignments, it could be one of these things, and we could be overreacting, but still yet, when you look at what's ahead, you're talking about dress rehearsal because you have Arkansas State and then Memphis before you go to Ole Miss. There was just a lot of wide open receivers. There was a lot of, run game from that defensive, and they settled down. And it's one of those things that, like we said, with a team like Alabama A&M, you have to keep the foot down on the pedal, got to keep it down, and they kept scoring. And there was even quotes of people saying, well, this is why Arkansas has to score in every possession. And it really gets me to think, after seeing a lot of these games, how many of these teams is Arkansas going to be able to outscore if it gets into shootout situations week after week?
Well, after some of the performances that we saw around college football yesterday, a lot of offenses struggled. It seemed like there's
Yes.
a lot of good defenses out there. Um, this is something. Do I think that they're going to put up 550 yards game after game after game? No, I don't. But you got to look at last year. What you averaged just over 31 a game points. You averaged over 430, 450 yards, somewhere in there per game. You expect them to improve on those. Everybody wants to talk about year two, Bobby Petrino, year two, Bobby and Talon. So let's see what happens. I think that Talon found his number one receiver in Omega Blake yesterday.
Mhm.
I will say that he seemed more comfortable at finding different receivers.
Yes.
Wasn't singling in on any one person, which was an upside from last year. So I'll give him that. But here we go again yesterday. He got sacked twice. I think it was only officially sacked twice, or maybe it was more than that. Um, the offensive line let them through. We knew that they would be blitzing. Let me see the full score. They had one linebacker with 2 sacks.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Defense.
Yeah. Wyatt Wright had 2 sacks.
Yeah, and that was their 2 sacks. So, it's one of those that there was some times that they got pressure. Talon ran. Talon got caught. He's still making some of those same, I call them mistakes, but the offensive line didn't help him out any there. And, I kind of expected Mike Washington to have well over 150, didn't clip 100. But it's one of those that, you're just kind of nitpicking. 9 carries for 79 yards for Mike Washington, 9 rushes for 41 for Talon, 11 for 41 for Braylon.
Mhm.
So, it's one of those that it was the first game. Teams all across the country looked rusty, looked sloppy. So, how do you build on this next week when you play Arkansas State in Little Rock?
Yeah. Well, and it just goes right here to this question. What needs to be addressed immediately for the Hawks? Defense. Defense. Your offense can play like this, but I'll bring up the LSU Clemson game last night. Defense won the game for LSU. Both defenses was playing on an elite level. And you've seen how Harold Perkins, this guy moved into a different position this year, and how he was coming off of it was like a hybrid linebacker safety position, and how he was coming through the B gap and sacking Klubnik. I mean, you're looking at Taylor Green. Yes, he's quicker than Klubnik, but you're looking at how these people are going to blitz. You got to be able to do that. If you're going to sit back and you don't get pressure on the quarterback, and if a team like Alabama A&M is just throwing wild on you, if they're able to find, protection and find those soft spots in that zone or get a man out of position, you can't have. This is why I called it the dress rehearsal. You cannot have these type of mistakes in any other game this season, because they're going to lead to touchdowns. Because one, the penalties are going to get addressed. Teams are not going to be. They're going to be able to line up. Alabama just looked like they were just. You could tell it seemed like it was their first practice of the year. Just they couldn't seem to not fall start or jump off sides, anything like that. You got to button it down where you've got to stay disciplined or not get out of position. And you've got to get some pressure. You got to be able to sack their quarterback or hurry him to cause him to make some errant throws or turnovers, or you're going to have a lot of teams score 30 to 40 on you. It's just, if you're letting an FCS team or a SWAC team do that to you, it's not looking good when you're playing these SEC teams.
No. And, looking at it, let's see, we had, 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss against a team like Alabama A&M. You've got to address that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get pressure, which we all knew the defensive line was going to be an issue. And, one thing that I've asked over the past couple of days, I haven't asked you yet, but I will here, we talk about some of these defensive issues. We talked about it leading up to the season. We've been very vocal in criticism for Sam Pittman. I will say that we've been fairly, and others have been fairly vocal with even criticisms of Bobby Petrino. I don't feel like that there's been any or hardly at all any criticisms towards Williams.
Yeah.
And it's just, does he get a pass because everybody likes him and his personality and his upbeat, or what? Because our defense has not been good the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And I just, and it's not that I'm coming for him by any means, but there's just always glaring holes in our defense. And it's one of those that we still have people wanting him to, replace Pittman when the time comes. And I'm just sitting here like, where is this coming from? Because we're sitting here talking about the defense, we're talking about the position groups and specific players, but we're never bringing the coaches into the mix on the defense.
Absolutely. And that's valid. That is very valid. I think a lot of it is, your seat might be hot, but yet somebody else's seat's hotter. I think a lot of it is whether it's us, anybody else, whoever. I think all the attention and the hot seat is on Sam Pittman. He's going to get all the blame because whether it's right or wrong, if he's not doing good, everybody's just going to be saying, look, we need to fire him. We need to let him go. Until that happens, it's always going to be directed at Sam Pittman. Yes, he's going to catch strays. He's going to catch things, look at the defense, but he's not going to catch the heat that Pittman's catching right now at this moment because he hasn't turned things around or they haven't let him go. And until that happens, he's just going to catch, whether it's his fault or not, he's going to catch the brunt of it because that's the hottest seat right now. Now, if Sam Pittman was doing a better job, the offense was clicking and they're doing everything and his seat wasn't hot, then we'd be like, hey, look, I think we made a mistake at this defensive coordinator position. I still think that when you look at depth, when you look at what you're dealing with, if you're having to move an offensive lineman over to the defensive side of the ball a week before season starts, that shows you where they're at on depth. How much does depth fall on coaching? That goes to the recruiting side. Not saying that he needs to get his players up, but again, Adam, all this strength and how fast these guys were, I didn't see none of them on the defense side of the ball. Offense, I mean, the stats look very, very similar to the UAPB game. We were raving last year, man. They got 8 people open. They threw to 8, 9 different people. He did this. He had 6 touchdowns, all that stuff. So to me, we can overreact of how the defense have played, but the whole grand scheme of it, I really want to see how next week plays before I really start giving that, because this is going to be a much better team than A&M. A team that's going to really, truly want to beat you in Little Rock. So, but yeah, I get where you're coming from on the T-Will stuff because we even did it, or I even did it. He was one of those, everybody wanted him to be the Broyles Award winner. So if you're not performing, you want the praise, you should expect to get the criticism as well.
And, we have these conversations and then it kind of makes me think back to the tweet, the video that you sent me yesterday, also from DJ Williams, 4th and 5, and the talk, the in-state players, defensive ends and whatnot that aren't coming to Arkansas, that kind of laughed when it was brought up. Like Arkansas's got to do a lot for that to, that's change and this and that. But then we see the likes of people that cover recruiting for Arkansas talking about, well, they weren't even offered. And it's just one of those, we've talked about the in-state talent. We've talked about Arkansas being behind the rest of the majority of the southern states when it comes to high school football, high school recruiting and things like that. But we're still seeing these guys from Arkansas go to other teams and perform. Some of them even getting drafted to the NFL. And it's just, I just look at it. I feel like there's something missing on the defensive side when it comes to recruitment. And we pump up these exciting recruiting wins that T-Will gets and the videos that, of him running down the hallway when we get a 4-star. I think it was a linebacker or a cornerback or something that when that, went viral and whatnot. I just think that we focus so much, and like you brought up, Sam's always been the one, or has been the one on the hot seat, and obviously your head coach is more than others. You've changed coordinators on both sides of it. You've kept the head coach the same. basically similar results. So I just look at, I think some criticism needs to be thrown towards the defensive side of the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, when you got Campbell, 1 tackle, Sorry, 1 tackle all game. So you're sitting here telling me you're playing this team, and let's just go break it down a half. I don't know how long but really after the halftime, it just, for me, it was a 52-7 game, but it was a boring 52-7 game because the defense wasn't playing well. Yes, they finally got it together, but it still was boring. The offense played great. But when you're sitting here looking at your defensive stats and your 2 players, how they are, all conference and this and that, 1 tackle. I mean, that's, yeah. I think, the fact that you're an SEC defense and you got 1 tackle all game, you couldn't get through the line to get a sack or get a tackle for loss. That says a lot, because if you're supposed to be the captains of this team and an all SEC player, whether first team, second team, third team, you should have at least gotten 5 tackles.
And I don't want to seem like I'm just like coming at it, but this was one of those games that you knew that they were going to win handily. There was a lot of great things, but it's to the point, hey, if you want to get better, we've got to point out and talk about those things that are issues. So, that's why I kind of switch gears a little bit to some of the stuff that are issues for me. And just, I look at, we can't play this type of defense, because here's the thing is these SEC teams that have better players on offense, even though some struggled yesterday, it's going to be one of those that I don't think you're going to be able to hang with those teams when it comes to somewhat better offenses against your struggling defense. You don't want to get in shootouts in the SEC. That's what we don't want.
Well, and here's another thing. Look, this is how I'm going to handle this season. It's business time now. Like we had our trolling, we had our heated moments and how we really feel about this team, and we want more excitement and all this. But now from here on out, you're going to get like real true thoughts, real everything that comes out of my opinion. Yes, right there.
Yeah,
you have this type of stuff. But they had 1 less tackle for loss than you did. They had 5, you had 6 all game. And this is to those crowds. This is to the 8-win crowds. This is to the 9-win crowds. This is to the people that we did this last year after the UAPB game. You're seeing holes because guess what? Here in 3-4 weeks, if you start off, let's just say 2-4 or 2-3, we're going to come back and be like, look, we're trying to tell you what we see game by game. Not saying that Arkansas can't turn it around next week and play lights out and get 7 sacks, get 10 tackles for losses. We're doing it game by game now. I'm not going to sit here and say that, okay, I'd be surprised if this team won 4 games. I'm not going to do that off of this game because I'm not going to go the other route of it. Oh my God, they won 52-7 as an 8-win team. I also seen other teams in the SEC play this week, and I also seen some teams that they better shape up or it's going to be a long season. So take it for however you want to on it. But to me, it's the people that throw that, why aren't Arkansas ranked? Then they backtrack on why. Well, I wasn't meaning you were. You're known for sunshine pumping. You get paid by the university and people backing them up. Oh, well, that ain't how they meant it. We know them. We've been listening to them for 10, 15 years. We know how they are. So we from here on out have to judge this game by game. How did they go? How did Arkansas play? Offense, I'm going to give them a B+, A-. Defense, a D. A D. They finally got it together, but overall against this type of team, I'm giving them a D.
I don't think you're far off. I mean, like, I'm going to go back to these numbers right quick. Where is it at? I don't have the total numbers here, but
What you
just
need?
looking. I was just going to look at the total. I mean, so they had 166 yards passing, 69 yards rushing. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that my biggest issue here is the lack of tackles for loss, sacks. You should have gone out and been in their backfield every single play. And I don't know. It's just one of those. It's frustrating. And at the same time, I don't want to hype myself too much. And I get it. We gave up 7. I totally get that. And they got better as the game went on. We've brought up that, they only let them score 7 points. They barely had over 200 yards total offense, whatever. It's great. We can pump that up all day long. And then what happens when we get smacked in the mouth a week later? I mean, that's why I'm not trying to just pump everything up. I'm just talking about my issues, my concerns. And I think that anybody that's like, oh, well, we only gave up 7 or whatever, everything's fine and dandy. It's not. There are issues on this defense.
Well, and that's the thing. Okay, this is not to even bash on Derek. It's a thing. You look at a box score and you say 52-7. But I seen a team that gave it everything they had for 2 series, couldn't get settled, couldn't get, things going in the right way. You march down the field on the first series. The second one you could have done the same thing, but you could not get out of your own way. And it's like, okay, Arkansas then pulled away and they just kind of, all right, waved the white flag. Let's get our money and let's go home. Again, like I said before, this is not saying that Alabama A&M would have put up 21, 24, 28 points, but they had 2 series in a row where they could have went down and marched down the field, and it could have been and this is being dead honest, it could have been a 14-10 game if they wouldn't have had that penalty on that. Again, 13 was running down the sidelines, and they had a penalty on that play. So we're just trying to be observant of what we see. And then if they start turning around, we're good. Okay, that's great. They did. Next week will be a big, and I'll take next week's game seriously because yes, it's a lesser opponent, but they're going to come in and they got a guy that can fling it. They have some SEC caliber players on their team. They are going to come in. This is their Super Bowl. This is no shade at them. Like, this is no trolling. This is their Super Bowl. 100%. And this is people that come in that there's nothing about the school. When we talk to Kara, which we'll show you clips from our episode with her, the guys they don't care about the series. They care about beating Arkansas. And then you have,
Grant here, congratulations on your divorce, Grant. I just thought this was hilarious. And I couldn't go without bringing it up.
What I liked was one that's had to have the Jumbotron out, and I put on there that it was sponsored by the 50-50 raffle. So,
it's one of those that was game one. It was, get some of the funky stuff out of the way, get the proverbial the monkey off your back and just move forward. You know what you need to work on now. And it's totally different for these guys when you actually go out and play a team that you haven't been playing against for the last several months. So new faces, new jerseys, a new opponent in front of you. So it's one of those that they got this out of the way. So button things up for Little Rock next week. And then, or actually this week now, that's Sunday, and go from there. Just build off this and keep moving forward. Like we talked about, we're going to take it game by game. It's one of those, hey, they're a 1-0 team. So you're going to get treated like a 1-0 team going into this. What do you need to improve on? But, Arkansas State, I feel like, is going to do everything in their power to win this game. Whereas Arkansas, I just don't want Arkansas to go in this just looking at them like little brother, because little brother's ready to come smack them in the mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we head to break, after the game, it was just like, we seen these things. We want to fix them. I want to see passion. I want to see excitement. If you won 52-7, I would expect you to come out and like, hey, look, man, we know we got to fix these things, but I'm hyped about the team. But there was nothing. It's the same monotone stuff after every game. I do not understand every game it's like that. So, and leads by example, starts at the top. So, but what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. But before we do, we're going to hear from our people over at FanDuel. Guys, if you are like us, Saturdays are for the Hogs, Sundays are for NFL. And with FanDuel, you could bet like a pro. Whether you're stacking a game parlay on college, sweating a last-minute field goal in NFL, FanDuel puts the power in your hands with live odds, quick bets, and easy cash outs. New customers even score bonus bets just for signing up. So you call the Hogs or you ride or die with your favorite NFL team. Make every down count. Bet college, bet pro, bet FanDuel. And after the break, we'll be right back and we'll talk more about the SEC's start and the top 25. And then we'll look ahead just a tad bit to Arkansas State. We'll catch you after the break. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Look no further than ATU Ozark Campus. As a 2-year satellite campus of Arkansas Tech University, we're dedicated to a quality workforce education, industry partnerships for in-demand jobs, and tailored paths for success. Our programs are led by industry professionals. Whether it's a certificate or you're aiming for a graduate degree, ATU Ozark has you covered. Visit our website at www.atu.edu/Ozark or contact us at 479-667-2117. Your future begins here. Welcome to Ozark Area Chamber of Commerce, where our mission is simple: encourage, promote, and aid an enduring environment of shared economic opportunity and civic development for the Ozark, Arkansas area. Whether you're a local business owner or a resident, we've got something for you. Shop our unique local businesses, explore the beauty of Ozark, and savor local flavors and find cozy accommodations. Join us in building a stronger community, and to learn more, contact us at 479-667-2525. Remember, together we thrive. And welcome back to the Hog Pot Podcast. And just opening up with the Arkansas State game, if you want to get on, FanDuel has it Arkansas as a 21.5 point favorite, and the over-under is 64.5 points. So opening lines, 21.5 point favorite, Arkansas over Arkansas State. And I don't know. I don't know that kind of, you would think they would be more of a favorite. So I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe they're taking into consideration the neutral site. Who really knows? I know we talked about, hey, stood on, if Arkansas doesn't win by 3 scores or more, it's going to be one of those things that going to be kind of worried to go into Ole Miss the following week.
Yeah. But, when you have other games happen this weekend, and I know Bama Nation was having a bit of a meltdown. You had Texas and their Arch Manning stuff. Clemson could not get it going offensively. LSU just looked stellar on defense, but it was a crazy first weekend in college football, and I was one of the ones in the majority that I didn't see Florida State coming out like they did. I did not see that one bit. I thought Alabama would have no problem with them because they always seem to do well in these. But you were there. You were going to Florida State. You weren't playing in Atlanta, Georgia. You weren't playing in kind of home field advantage. But man, what a first weekend of college football.
It's one of those that when it was a good weekend when you've got Alabama fans, mad and getting the good camera angles. And then when you've got Alabama memes coming out afterwards. So, it's one of those that it's all in good fun. It's one of those that, yes, it's the fall of Alabama. It's for having to put up with how good they've been for so long.
Yep.
That now that's, being brought back down to the real world, if you will. It was one of those, there were some sloppy games. I know, a lot of us kind of talked quite a bit during the Texas-Ohio State game. I mean, Arch Manning, he just looked uncomfortable the whole game against Ohio State. Couldn't throw on the run, kind of some bad decisions. And it was just, he did not look fit. He did not look like was all with it. And I don't know if it was the atmosphere, the fact that you're playing 1 versus 3, you're playing at Ohio State, you didn't have a lead when you got to, came into a game, whatever it was. And it's one of those things that he'll get better. I don't doubt that by any means, but I expected more just based on all the hype.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, look, the hype is, this is what we get. This is the Bronny James hype. This is the hype that and I feel for these kids because everybody is expected to be great right away. And he's one of the ones that it maybe takes him some time to develop. But your first game on the road, first weekend in college football, you're in the horseshoe. And just for the fact that he couldn't hear what's going on. And somebody who doesn't know really the offense. Now you're playing against Ohio State, who looked really good. I mean, you had 2 really good defensive games with the LSU Clemson game and then Ohio State Texas game. I mean, the defenses were good. So we've seen Alabama do this for years, have a mediocre quarterback, have a really good running game, but their defense be elite, and it gets them to the national championship. Not saying they're going to bounce back and make the college football playoff, but there's going to have to be some things change because he just seemed off. And, they didn't have a run game. It was one of those things where when you get sputtering in the mud and you realize you're stuck, it is hard to get out of that. But he seemed to show glimpses of, that one throw there on that last drive was just beautiful down the left-hand side of the left sideline, and of course, Wingo, if we're going to talk about Arch Manning, yes, he played horrible, but Wingo had a rough day. I mean, just a lot of catches that were missed. And we've seen that all across yesterday. There was a lot of wide open passes. There was a lot of contested passes that just didn't get caught. So all these things can be fixed. But this is the first time you're playing against true competition. But I love it. I love these top 10 matchups and all these big games because on College Game Day, they were talking about, look, we're going to credit these teams for playing, and I think they should. And I think, say Texas runs the table and it comes down to, let's say 11-1 Texas or 12-0 UCF. You look at that, they played Ohio State week 1. You should get some credit for that opposed to not playing anybody all year long.
100%. And I'm just looking down some of the other scores. I know you watched the LSU Clemson game a lot closer than I did. But, a lot of people weren't on the LSU bandwagon, if you will, before the season, but there were several that were, Kirk Street being one of those, and there's some others. And I think you even admitted, before the show or what, LSU's a lot better than a lot of us thought. A lot of us were putting a lot in Nussmeier's basket but I don't think we were taking into account the players he's got around him. But I know a lot of people too. I mean, Penn State looked good.
Yeah.
And they're one, they're sitting at number 2. Penn State is one. I mean, what we could be looking, and this is obviously way too early, but I think, Penn State, LSU, potentially, national title.
Could
It'll be
be.
weird.
Yeah. Lee Corso picked LSU to be, the national champions. And look, that was something that I meant to say, Lee Corso, Adam, I'm 43. And it's weird when you're talking about that was your childhood and your adulthood, watching him on Saturday mornings. And I know his health has declined. I know the quality, the past couple of years, it was apparent, hey, it's getting closer. And I want to say it's funny that the criticism he was getting in the last couple of years, and it's all fine and well until it's time for him to really truly step away. Yesterday was a tough watch. I'm not going to lie. Nostalgia of 20 something years of watching him put the headgear on and what it meant to the landscape of college. It is a true meaning of you're getting older in life, is when these legends, these people you spent Saturday mornings watching and looking up to, start going away. They start retiring, and he's one of them. He was one of the true legends. He made college game day exciting, and just tip of the cap to him and everything else he does in his future. But yeah, it was really cool to see. You knew he was going to put the Ohio State headgear on. You knew that was going to happen. It was his very first one in Columbus. So it was a really cool thing to really see unfold live.
And some of the other games, this one was, I think, was it Thursday night? I think it was Thursday night with the UCA Missouri game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Missouri's quarterback, I get it. It's Missouri versus UCA, but Missouri's quarterback looked fast. There were some players, especially quarterbacks out there, that I'm concerned about when Arkansas plays them, just for their dual threat ability. And it's one of those that I didn't know much about Missouri's quarterback. I was just kind of ho-hum on him. That kid has wheels on him. And that's one game that if he's still their quarterback by game 12, then I'm going to be worried.
That was the thing with LSU last night that really impressed me, is they were doing a lot of misdirections things. They would shift things to the left and go right. Or 29, I'm going to botch the name, so I'm just going with numbers. 29 was a beast all night long, and he would go to and how he was able to see the field, cut back, and totally change the direction of the field and turned a negative yardage rushing attempt or 2 or 3 yards into 20, 30-yard gains. On the defensive side of the ball, number 4, that dude was a monster. And then Perkins, Harold Perkins is everything he was his freshman year. They have a very, very solid defense. And I really, you talk about the call that was a touchdown. I mean, that was really the thing that disappointed me as a Clemson fan, because you're like, if Clemson wins that game, it's going to be tarnished by that ridiculous call. I don't see how somebody catches the ball, holds on to it, goes through the pylon, then falls down, and then a little jostle of the ball, and they say it went from being marked out of bounds to an incomplete pass. It was horrible, and it kind of tainted the game. It tainted the excitement of the game, because you're like, even if Clemson pulls this out, you're like, it's going to be tainted because of that call.
Refs will be refs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those that it wouldn't be college football if we weren't having ignorant calls like that happen. One thing I did notice, Nico for UCLA had a horrible game.
Yeah.
So leaving Tennessee may not have been the best idea. Tennessee, it looks like they're in good hands with Joey Aguilar as their quarterback, and that was one I didn't expect. I didn't expect him to perform that well, and it's one of those that it makes me a little bit more worried about when Arkansas travels to Knoxville. So they knocked off Syracuse 45-26. These guys, this kind of goes to which a lot of us have talked about before. Grass isn't always greener when these guys go find other schools. It works out for some. It doesn't work out for the majority. And I don't think it's going to work out for Nico at Madden, but we'll see what happens to him.
Yeah, and Aguilar for Tennessee looked really good. Lagway for Florida. I mean, that catch, I know you're playing Long Island, but I don't know what that kid's name was. I mean, it was the Odell Beckham catch. I mean, stretched out behind his back, laid out, and hauled it in. Really crazy catch. But then you go back to the LSU catch. If that would have stood as a touchdown, that would have been, I think, an even better catch because he had the Clemson guy wrapped around him, caught it one hand, and then held on to it through. And then again, they ruled it incomplete pass. But man, just Florida's going to be really good. DJ Lagway, Coach Watson here at Ozark had warned me a couple of weeks ago when we come out with our quarterback rankings that I need to keep an eye on him. So he proved me again. Yes, it was Long Island, but he did tell me to keep an eye on him.
I'm anxious to see what happens this season. You know, it's one of those. It's early. I know. Is the Miami Notre Dame game underway yet, or are they still battling weather?
Let me see. I know, South Carolina beat Virginia Tech. Let me look and see. I'm looking at the. Let me look. Top 25. No, they're 0-0, 13:39 left in the first on ABC. So when we get done with this broadcast, head on over to ABC and watch Notre Dame and Miami.
So it's one of those that we'll see. There's a lot more football. I'm ready for NFL to get here. So we can add to our pick 'em, starting off with me still in first place. So
I mean, look, I'll say this. I know last year you got some crap for cheating. So how about this? To help a brother out, quit putting Clemson in the pick 'em because I'm always going to pick them. They're always going to let me down. So
I didn't even think about, doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're always going to pick them, but it's one of those that who knows.
I'm very superstitious as well.
Y'all just go through. Hey, I think these matchups look good, and then we'll go from there.
You know what you sound like my wife when it comes to ordering off the Walmart app and doing our grocery. If you don't like what we're having for dinner, you do it yourself. No, it's funny. I just had to laugh because but it's our fault. You know what I'm saying? We need to
y'all could, I mean, there's three of y'all, there's one of me. Y'all could outvote me.
But you are three of us. Like seriously. Like what you do. Yeah. So,
but we'll see. There's still a long season. We have till February to get this sorted out.
Exactly. But speaking of that, coming up, Adam and the guys, come on Hog HQ Live, 8:05. So be sure to come back in an hour to get their reactions from the weekend, and we will continue rolling with this. Thursday, we're going to have our Arkansas State preview show. Kind of go over some things in a previous episode with Kara Ritchie. We'll be showing some of those clips from what Kyle Sutherland had to say, Kara Ritchie. But again, Adam, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, break time before the next one.
All right. Before we head out, another word from FanDuel, guys. Saturdays are for the Hogs, and Sunday is for NFL. FanDuel puts the power in your hands with live odds, quick bets, and easy cash outs. New customers even score bonus bets just for signing up. So if you call the Hogs or ride or die with your favorite NFL squad, make every down count, bet college, bet pro, bet FanDuel. And again, that opening line is 21.5 over under 64.5. And that will do it for our show. For Adam Hall, I'm Porter Hayes. Thank you for everybody tuning in, and we will catch you on Thursday.